John McMullen, Jordan McDonald here with you on Birds 365. We got our guy Rob Maaddi checking in, who is still here in Philadelphia. If the text you and I have been exchanging are on point, you're sticking around for Game 7 tonight?
Yeah, I'm not sure, though, if I should show up. The Phillies have never lost a postseason home game at Citizens Bank Park when I'm not there. So they're like 18-11 or 12 when I show up, undefeated, 10-0 somewhere around when I'm not there. I'm guessing I should not be. I mean, I was in the building for the 2008 World Series, but it's just the way it's worked out. So if they've never lost, I'm guessing I should just stay outside the bank.
Hold on. The Phillies just text me, your credential for tonight has been canceled. So that call has already been made for you.
I don't believe in, I'm not a superstitious guy, Rob. Just go enjoy the Game 7 atmosphere. You have nothing to do with it. I'm in the firmly non-superstitious category, but I'm surprised you stuck around in Philadelphia because they locked us inside the Lincoln out of the Wells Fargo parking lot. So, that wasn't too home-like, welcome you back to Philadelphia, but a quick thank you on air.
Oh, absolutely. I haven't walked 4,000 steps at 2 a.m. in probably 10, 15 years. So it was good to get a nice brisk walk around the entire sports complex. It was a fun night.
Yeah,
that's why you come back to Philadelphia, to get those brisk walks in. You don't get that in Florida. You get
absolutely not
breeze strolls. All right, I need to ask you this question. John and I were just talking about this before you came on, and you're as good as there is to give us a national perspective because you're in different locker rooms covering the whole league. Motivation. What a coach can put in front of a team and use for motivation. Nick Sirianni said in his press conference yesterday, John just told us, we felt like we were the underdog. And even if we were underdog, we make up the fact that we're the underdog to use us to get us to motivate the team for a given game, which worked perfectly against the Dolphins. And they beat a fellow 5-1 team. Are other teams going to use the fact that Nick Sirianni was kind of dismissive of everybody else in the league when it comes to the tush push this week? And he said, we can do it. Anybody else can't do it. Don't be banning it just because we can do it. Nobody else can do it. He's kind of given a backhander to the rest of the league in the fact that this is a play that can't be stopped. And oh, by the way, he's right. The numbers say he's right, but do you emphasize that? Do you keep bringing that up? Do you do it with a smirk, a smile, and a laugh when you talk about it? Nationally broadcast press conferences? Can other teams use this as motivation against the Eagles going forward?
Well, he certainly was feeling himself a little bit on Sunday night after that big victory. And I understand the underdog mentality that they came in with because the hype and the talk about Mike McDaniel being the second coming of, Sean McVay, because every year it's a new young coach, right? It's Sean McVay, it's Brandon Staley, who hasn't done a damn thing in the NFL. Now it's Mike McDaniel. Kyle Shanahan is always overhyped, and he hasn't won a Super Bowl either. But in regards to the tush push, the brotherly shove, no, he's right. Nobody else can do it. And one thing about motivation and bulletin board material, guys, if you need that in the NFL, you're playing the wrong sport. If you need it in any sports, you're playing the wrong sport. You should always have enough motivation without bulletin board material or any of that stuff. I don't think, Jody, what he said on Sunday night is going to get teams to be suddenly figure out a way to stop the Eagles and the way they execute the quarterback sneak and figure out a way to stop how effective they are.
I'm not even talking about stopping it. I'm talking about someone taking a shot at Jalen Hurts.
It's hard to me. I think it's going to be really hard to be able to figure out, for the way the Eagles execute that play, somebody could take a shot depending on whoever it is and how dirty of a player they are. We see, like, you can see some videos. I was just watching a video of one of the guys on the Niners last night hitting someone late with a knee. And there's cheap shots at the bottom of all kinds of piles, and it happens. And that's got to be the biggest concern, is that you don't want your quarterback to get injured, who, oh, by the way, is a little gimpy right now and is a little hobbled right now. And he's dealing with something clearly there. And they still did it, and they still did it effectively.
Yeah, he was feeling himself after that Dolphins game. He was very. In fact, it was your question, Rob. What was said? You asked about Jalen Hurts. He went through the week.
I was glad he laid that out for me because it's been a couple of years now, and I haven't seen the stringing along of. Come on, Nick. I read the transcripts. I see I know how it works. I see how it is. But you gotta ask that. I mean, Jalen Hurts.
Well, and we do. And he used me, and he used Elliott, and he said, they're gonna ask me, and I'm gonna.
Did you do it though? Monday you followed up. I know somebody did.
Somebody followed up. I did not. I was not burning my question on that, but I forget who asked him. I think Dave Zangaro. So I'll give Dave for throwing on the grenade. So
yes,
we did get, but Jalen's not expected to miss any time, but we'll see. I mean, he's not 100%, and how that affects him moving forward. The biggest news, obviously, is Kevin Byard coming here, Rob. I can't figure out this league. I've been saying it before you came on. They keep giving gifts to Howie Roseman. I get Tennessee's rebuilding. This is a 2-time All-Pro safety, 5-time captain, good guy off the field, leader in the locker room. Makes a lot of money, but Tennessee's paying it all because they already reworked his deal. Howie gets him for about $3 million, a little bit less. Any downside to this? And why does the NFL making things easier for the Eagles?
Howie's going to Howie. I don't see any downside to getting in a 2-time All-Pro safety, a player of his caliber, and not just what he can do and the versatility he brings on the field, but he's a veteran presence, a leader in the locker room. I don't expect him to step in and be that guy immediately, but I don't see any downside whatsoever to this trade. It's one of those classic, we look at it and go, Howie did it again, stole a player. I'm surprised Tennessee, after trading A.J. Brown, still even listens to Howie when he gives them a phone call.
Well, that was John Robinson. He already got John Robinson fired. Now he's going to get poor Rand Carthon fired.
Yeah.
Who's the number?
Rand's learning real quickly after that. But, hey, they're not going anywhere. Tennessee's not going anywhere. And if you can get a couple draft picks and figure out what you do with those at some point and parlay those and assets and draft capital and all that stuff, that's the kind of team that they are right now. They got to figure out their quarterback situation. But this is a great move for the Eagles. It's the one area that we knew that they had to upgrade entering the season, really. And then you look at some of the injuries throughout the year. They needed to go out there, find a guy. And I think it was all just a question of who would it be? Would it be Budda Baker? Would it be Justin Simmons from Denver? And they go and get another guy, high caliber, high quality player in Kevin Byard. And oh, by the way, he's got some Philadelphia connections, some Philadelphia ties. It seems like just the absolute perfect fit for the Eagles.
And see, here's a question I asked at the beginning of the show when John was rightfully so beating the snot out of Carthon, the Titans general manager. Is there no other team in the league that could use a Kevin Byard at this time? I'm assuming Carthon is good enough at his job that he offered him all around the league. No one else would come up with more than what Howie gave. Really? Was Byard worth that little? Is he not that significant? He's an upgrade, but is he slowing down from where he once was? Or is the Tennessee general manager not the only GM that doesn't know what the hell he's doing at this stage? I got to believe he tried to sell him as best he could. There wasn't a market for him, and how he gets to take advantage of that?
Yeah, no, I certainly think that Carthon offered his services around to everybody, and teams hold on to their draft picks and cherish those picks like gold.
Grim death, Rob. Grim death. Day 3 picks.
Yeah, it's crazy. A 5th and a 6th round pick, and you look at some of the deals that are made around the league, and this one comes down to who's willing to part with anything and bring in a guy who, at this point in the season, you got to be a contender to want to make a deal like that. You can't be a bottom feeder team, a pretender or a hopeful. You got to be somebody who's an upper tier. So that limits kind of what the market was going to be. And the Eagles stepped up and I don't think adding Terrell Edmonds really mattered much to the trade, other than giving them a body right now, a veteran body. But they were able to do that, and good for the Eagles, good for Howie, and we'll see how it plays out. But I certainly think that this is going to help bolster the defense, and we all do.
I see a little bit, Rob, of an NBA mentality that has seeped into the NFL, especially with younger GMs, as you just pointed out. And they're, it's basically, we're not ready to win, so let's go the opposite direction. Let's look at Caleb Williams in the draft. Try to go about it that way. I don't think you need to do that in football. I think, there's a lot of ways to win in professional football. You don't have to get the superstar. Now you need a quarterback. That part's fair. But do you think that the league is going? Do you agree with that sentiment that there's too much sort of? I don't want to use the word tanking, but couch it any way you want. Do you think it's shifting in that direction too much?
I've seen where some teams are looking ahead to next year. Let's put it that way. And looking ahead to next year means you may not necessarily put your best foot forward. I think towards the end of last season, the Colts were kind of in that position. And there was thought about, the Cardinals are going into this year and they're going to be all in. But yet Jonathan Gannon somehow gets his team to play hard. They're playing hard every week. And I don't know that they are in tank mode, despite what the thought process was. I agree with you in the NFL. There are a variety of ways to go from worst to first. And it does start to me at the quarterback and the coaching positions. And if you're able to bring in a guy who's a difference maker at quarterback, if you're able to get a head coach who quickly changes the culture, he had some talent obviously in place, but what Doug Peterson did in Jacksonville, you get a Super Bowl winning head coach who spent a year out of the league, who left Philadelphia after a terrible 2020 season, and he inherits Urban Meyer's mess in Jacksonville, and he quickly turns them into a division champion and a team that wins. So they brought in the right coach and had a mix of talent already. Now they got the quarterback the year prior, so it's a combination, and that's why the quarterbacks are getting paid the money they are, and that's why head coaches are getting more and more, certainly more and more money. And the turnover at head coaches is so rapid, because if you don't get that job done in 2 years, 3 years, you're out the door, and they're going to bring in the next big thing, the next hot thing to try and turn that around. So I don't see teams having to go full tank mode in the NFL. You just have to figure out a way to get the right QB coach combo, one or the other.
All right. I need to have you give me a rating, 0 to 10. 0 being, what the hell was Howie Roseman thinking? 10 being, this guy's going to get to stand at the top of the bus, in the front of the bus, after the parade going down Broad Street when Eagles win it all this year. The acquisition of Julio Jones, 0 to 10. Where do you put it?
It's 6.
Oh,
I don't think you have anything to lose bringing in Julio Jones. My concern with Julio, getting to see him last year in Tampa, is his availability. Not his availability on Sunday, but his availability on Wednesday and Thursday and Friday. He didn't practice much. He had a lot of veteran days off.
He'll fit right in with the Eagles.
Yeah, he had a lot of
lot of walkthroughs. And that's for a walkthrough, right?
That's the problem. If you can't build chemistry with Tom Brady in Tampa, it's going to be hard to build chemistry in Philly with Jalen Hurts. So if he's healthy, if he's available, if he can go out there and practice and get 15, 20, 30 plays and understand, and he can be an asset. He's certainly not the Julio Jones who's making tremendous one-handed catches in the Super Bowl that should have cinched that win for Atlanta, only to have.
By the way, that would be one of the legendary plays in NFL history if they win that game. That was And that was a footnote. Yeah.
Yeah, it really was. And they end up blowing that one. But he's still, to me, got a talented wide receiver who is a upgrade at that position right now. But my only concern is he going to be available? Is he going to go out? How long before the ankle, the hamstring, the groin, something happens? But I think it was worth a shot.
Yeah, I don't think there's any downside. I think Julio becomes important if AJ or Devontae sprain an ankle. Then that's when I think maybe he can have a bigger impact. The Eagles just don't have room for traffic. They have too many playmakers as it is. So I don't know how much he can put his stamp on this offense. But I don't know if you watch Monday Night Football, Rob. Go ahead.
You were there. He was in your neck of the woods last year about Tampa not being available and the like. Did he ruffle any feathers when he was no better than the third or fourth option in the passing game? You got your two-star wide receivers down there. Was he a disruptive force at all?
No, that doesn't happen when TB12 is in the locker room. He makes sure.
And by the way, I don't think he's going to complain. I think from the standpoint, there's one football. I don't think there's going to be many opportunities, barring injury, for him to contribute. I don't think Julio's going to create waves. I just don't see where the traffic is going to be there for him. But I wanted to bring this up, and I brought it up to Jody because she has so many contacts around the league, Rob. About 100 times on Monday Night Football. I don't know if you watched last night. And it's not, it's TV. Joe Buck, Troy Aikman do a tremendous job. They probably said it 100 times. Oh, if Minnesota loses this game, they're probably going to sell. But if they win the game, they're not going to sell. Please tell me NFL GMs aren't basing long-term decisions on 60 minutes of football. That can't be true. Please tell me.
They can't, and you shouldn't, and you would not be doing your job very well if you allow that to determine. Now your Minnesota Vikings, you're at 3-4 in a division where it's a long shot with the Lions at 5-2, barring significant injuries to key players. You're not going to win that division. You may compete for the final wild card spot, but are you going to go all out buy mode to compete for the 7 seed? You shouldn't. You shouldn't do that. So I think those are comments that sometimes it's you look at the standings, you look at the trade deadline date, and you put that together, and that'll be said this weekend about a bunch of teams that are right there in the mix. Oh, if they lose this game, they're gonna go full. I don't believe that GMs, team presidents, the whole front office can do that, and they know better. They have a bigger, clearer picture. Now, some teams may have been in a position where they've had guys who were injured, they've had guys who are down, that they may be getting back. They get it right around that 500 mark. They got a shot to bring in a player, but it's not a guy who's a free agent at the end of the season, who's a one and done, or maybe someone who's under contract who they can keep around. Then you make that move. But I think it's foolish for GMs to go out and make their trade deadline acquisitions based on, oh, well, we won this game, so now we're back in it.
Maaddi, man, do you do a weekly power ranking?
No, I think they're silly. I do a weekly power ranking that's unofficial when I just feel like tweeting something out.
Yeah.
Like, we don't do power rankings.
Good for you, Rob.
They don't mean anything. You look at it, the Bills kept popping up on teams 1 and 2 a few weeks ago, and I'm like, why? Why are you putting any Bills, Dolphins? You're putting them ahead of. It should always been Eagles and Niners, and now it's clear. It's Eagles and Kansas City. And that's the Eagles, Niners, and the Chiefs were the 3 teams coming in, and they are the 3 teams right now. And last night's loss by San Francisco at Minnesota certainly drops them a peg.
Oh, by the way, and I love doing this, the ESPN Power Index, which every week I have to go and check it, and I have to read how they actually go about it. It's computer-based and 10,000 simulated games played or whatever. They still have Buffalo number 1. The Bills now have 3 losses, not 2, 3 losses, but they still have Buffalo as the number
How?
one.
What is the criteria here?
I don't understand it. I read it
And
every
that's
week
why.
to try and figure it out, Rob, and I can't do it.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense to me. I might not be the brightest guy in the world, but I'm also nobody's fool.
What does
either.
that tell you
It
about
makes no
analytics right
sense.
there?
Yeah.
If that's all analytical based, then you can take your analytics and flush them down the toilet.
Exactly. Ridiculous.
Since you watched the game, what did that game tell you about the San Francisco 49ers? They didn't have Trent Williams. They didn't have Deebo Samuel. 2 losses in a row. Brock Purdy, people talk about turnover-worthy plays. All of a sudden, there's a couple turnover-worthy plays that are getting caught by the opposition. Any concern about the 49ers?
I love Brock Purdy, but I didn't buy into the MVP candidate stuff 2 weeks ago. And 2 weeks later, after they lose 2 games, and you see how he performed last week after losing McCaffrey and Deebo, and this week without Deebo and Trent Williams, certainly not a guy who's going to elevate everyone else around him. He's someone who is, I hate the term game manager. He's better than a game manager. He makes good decisions most of the time. Although I've seen him make a lot of dangerous passes. He did that last night. 2 were picked. He got away with some a little bit earlier in the season. So he certainly was missing Deebo, certainly was missing Trent Williams. And the difference for me between the 49ers and the Eagles is it's a quarterback position. Jalen Hurts can go out there and win you a game. Brock Purdy has not shown that he can go out there and win a game. They win plenty of games with Brock. He's got a ton of talent around him, but he hasn't elevated his game to where this guy's down, that guy's down. All right, fellas, ride on my shoulders. I'm going to take you out there, and we're going to win this football game. He's not there yet. I don't know when he'll get there or if he'll get there. 49ers got a stingy defense. They got a ton of playmakers, but they need them all healthy. Most teams do. If the Eagles lost A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith or Dallas or whoever, they're going to go out there and struggle too. I think it's going to come down to that December 2nd, 3rd, whatever day it is, matchup. That'll determine who's going to be the home field advantage in the NFC title game. And I could see the Eagles losing that one to the Niners in Philly. 49ers are all motivated. They get their revenge, and then the Eagles go to San Fran in the NFC title game and win that one. I could certainly see that happening.
Do you think, and last one, Rob, thanks as always for hopping on when you do. Do you think the Purdy MVP conversation, and I'm asking you to jump into the head of other media members and the like, which you may or may not be desirous and or willing to do you think part of it was that it's just boring to say, oh, Patrick Mahomes is the MVP again? It's kind of like Michael Jordan, Karl Malone wins the MVP. Why? Because we didn't want to give it to the Michael again and again and again and again. Mahomes is the MVP again, is he not? As of right now, and I know it's kind of like power rankings, which not all of us like to do, and it can change every single week, and it should. Mahomes is the MVP again.
You certainly could make that argument. I think you could have made that argument for Tom Brady for so many years, Aaron Rodgers for so many years, and Brady, I think, only won 3, by the way. Which you look at the totality of his career, he should have won more. But you gave me a little thought there, Jody. Since I handle all of that stuff, maybe I will stress this year to voters: do not be bored. Vote for the best candidate possible. And that's the way it's got to be done.
I'm going to throw Lamar back in the mix, especially if Baltimore keeps playing. That is if they can be under the radar, they're under.
And I know quarterbacks keep winning it, but Christian McCaffrey's got to be in the conversation.
Oh yeah, Christian. 16 straight games with a touchdown. 16 straight games. If
he stays healthy, what he's able to do, it's just phenomenal for the running back position, and he's obviously a threat in the slot and everything else that he brings. And I know that voters have often used the Offensive Player of the Year as the award to give to the best non-quarterback, and they go MVP for quarterback. But he certainly belongs in the mix right now, too.
I'll fly in the face of conventional thinking, and I know John will have my back because we talked about him. Myles Garrett deserves some consideration. I don't think he's going to get it. Defensive lineman's not going to win the MVP. But, damn, off the weekend game that he had, he should at least be in the conversation, should he not?
Yeah, he should be. And I certainly emphasize that it doesn't have to be only a quarterback. It can be any player. And when someone says, well, this position, no one's won it since LT, I will remind folks that a kicker, Mark Mosley,
baby,
was the NFL MVP. So
straight ahead kicker too. Yeah,
it should give hope to any player at any position. If a kicker can be the MVP of the NFL, it was in the strike short and lockout short in whatever year. I think that the Washington Redskins at the time were 8-2 or 9-2, whatever, on their way. But yeah, he was the MVP. Everybody should be on the table. Myles Garrett, Micah Parsons was in the conversation at some point along last season, and there's always been, well, if anyone's ever going to win it, Mike is going to be the defense. Hey, let's, like you said, let's not discount Myles Garrett.
One of the great marriages of all time, Myles Garrett with Jim Schwartz. The tremendous bit. At Rob Maaddi, make sure you follow Rob on Twitter. Does a tremendous job. Go to Game 7, Rob. I'm advocating that. And speaking of, did you see Myles jump over the line of scrimmage, block the field goal?
Yes, true. Incredible play. But by the way, Gardner Minshew put up some numbers against Jim Schwartz defense, and
that's
30-plus points and 400-plus total yards. So after they were number one coming in, they got a taste of the Minshew mania.
Yeah, but Minshew couldn't beat the former Owl, P.J. Walker, coming up big for the. He used to be in class with my daughter. That's why I root for her.
Real quick. Is Dallas a legit concern for the Eagles in your mind?
I thought so coming in when I picked them ahead of the Eagles in the division, but I see too many. I see too many warts. I see too many problems right now with the Cowboys. I don't have that confidence and belief in Dallas that I did coming into the season. Plus, I thought, I wanted to pick someone different because nobody's won a division consecutive years since the Eagles from 01 to 04. But right now, I don't have real concern with anyone in the division. The Eagles only beat themselves if they can stay healthy. The biggest concern's got to be what's up with Jalen's knee. I don't think it's anything significant since he went back out there and performed. You're not going to mess around with the franchise if there's a thought. There's some guys who've told me what they think it could be. I don't want to put it out there because it's always speculation. It's not anyone who's diagnosed him, but there's some certain types of things with the knees that you can play through and may or may not get worse. But that to me is the bigger concern than anything any other team can do.
What do you think of McCarthy as a play caller?
He's a little different of a play caller when he doesn't have Aaron Rodgers under center.
Everybody is
right. Helps make you be a better play caller. That to me is something, who I spoke to Tony Pollard about this, and he said the difference between Mike McCarthy and Kellen Moore is that you have to be on your details more. You have to be. So it suggests that he's a lot more detail oriented. And maybe it takes a little bit of time for some of those guys to get in sync with all of that when you got a lot of terminology and things of that nature.
Well, we'll see about the Cowboys. That's coming up in just a couple of weeks. And we're going to get you back in a couple of weeks. If you're heading over to Citizen Bank Park, enjoy. They better win. Otherwise, we're going to give you grief on Birds 360.
Not me, man.
I am. If I find out you're going, you got to text me and say, send a picture from the park and say I'm there. I'm going to give you props if they win. I'm going to bury your ass if they lose.
And if you need a ride, just text me. I owe you one.
You got it, fellas. Take it easy.
Always a pleasure. Thanks, buddy.
Thank you.
Rob Maaddi, lead writer for the NFL for the Associated Press. And I forgot. Yeah, he's the organizer of the MVP stuff. And I meant what I said. And this is no knock on Jalen. Jalen's having a good year, a very good year. Slightly down from his MVP level year last year. And there's a whole bunch of reasons and explanations for that. Mahomes is the MVP again.
You're right about Michael, though. Yeah, they just gave it to other people because they were tired.
They got tired of it. We got to give it to him again.
Yeah.
Let's give it to Karl Malone.
Yeah. Some of that same with LeBron as well. LeBron should have wanted a bunch more as well. Some of the same similar sentiment People
and
get
every
tired.
MVP voter will look you in the eye and tell you, "No, I
Yeah.
didn't vote that way."
Yeah.
And I'll tell them, I'll look them in the eye and go, "I don't
Yeah, you
believe you."
did. Yeah, you did.
He's McMullen. I'm McDonald, coming back here to put a bow on the show on Birds 365.